Hey everyone, I'm Daniel, and in this third video we will continue the workflow by constructing the new terrain in relation with the constructed site. In order to do that, we will use a couple of new Landfor tools, and once our new terrain is modeled, we will be able to calculate the volumetrics or the difference in volumes in between the new and the existing terrain. We can use the selection palette to check the objects within the land existing category. And as you can see, we basically have all the spot levels representing the terrain and a couple of ridge lines representing the road. If we switch the selection to the Landfor new, for now we have no object in. Not the least, we will try to balance out our cut and the fill based on the fall percentages from the constructed site towards the existing terrain, and in this way we'll try to balance out our volumes. I will start by projecting ridge slope in between the ridge line representing the pavement and the terrain. Basically, a ridge slope is an interpolated line which is projected on the terrain based on a fall percentage in between the ridge line and the terrain. Once you press on the function button, you have your fall palette, and here you can add a different fall percentage. I'll start by maybe 20%. And I will also place one on the other side of the parking lot. And as you can see now, we have two extra lines, which I can select here. And in the 3D, we can see the lines on the terrain. And here in the left side of the parking lot, we can see we need to fill basically to meet the constructed surface, while on the other side, we need to cut through the terrain. And we will basically have three lines here, two of them representing the fill, also this corner here, while on the third we'll have a cut. And we will define these lines at their junction with the pavement surface. That's where it intersects the constructed surface, basically. Not the least, we have control over the fall percentage when projecting these lines. So we can have different fall percentages on each side of the constructed side. Therefore, we can control the balances of the cut and the fill. Back to 2D, I can now delete these lines. And I can do a preliminary volumetrics again between the existing surface and the parking surface this time, just to check out the balances again. So I have to add to the site 6.67 cubic meters for the parking surface. And for the pavement, I basically need to add 6.75. So roughly 13 cubic meters needs to be added to the site at this level. Therefore, now I know that because I need to add to the site, I would rather have a slightly larger fill than a cut. But again, it's a matter of trying out different situations and see which one suits better. I can also calculate the area for my parking surface by showing the area of the fill. And I can do the same for the pavement. And I can see I have roughly 352 square meters plus 687. So this is my total area, and I used about 0.3, so 30 centimeters in thickness. So I will have roughly 310, 311 cubic meters to bring to the construction site as surface materials. Therefore, I also need to take this into account because they will be basically calculated in the total volumes we need to add to the site. I can now start creating some ridge slopes here. First, I will make sure I'm in Land for New category, and then I just need to select the ridge line and the existing terrain where I want to project this line. So because I would like to have a fill covering a larger area, I would use a small fall percentage. I'll try with 10. And for the cut part, I'll maybe go with 40%. So as you can see, if you use a high fall percentage, the projected line will be close to the initial ridge line, while on the other side we can see that if you use a small fall percentage, the line will be projected as far from the initial ridge line. And these are very helpful tools when you want to build your terrain in order to stabilize the soil around your constructed site. In the 3D, the lines have been now updated. So we can now see that the fill can be balanced out and the cut is closer to the construction site. Now having these lines, I can finally start and construct the new terrain with the help of the lines. So I'll make sure I'll place them in the new category. And having these lines, I can now start basically interpolating spot levels in the Land for New using placing spot levels using the gravity tool. So now I just need to follow these lines and place spot levels. So I would like my first spot level to be at the junction with the ridge line of the pavement. And I'll just now follow the line and place spot levels along. So these spot levels are basically red from the existing terrain. And again, this line will represent the place where the new terrain meets the existing terrain. I can do the same for the rest of the lines. Hit escape when you're done. So now I have the spot levels placed on the line, and the next step is to basically use these spot levels to create ridge lines, which I can use it in creating the new terrain. To do that, I will use because I don't need the inside of the line from here till here. So what I want to do is have just the outside line, or the line representing the outside of the construction side. I can use basically the polyline tool to place a line on top of it. And now I can delete the initial line I placed. We can check in the 3D the polyline we placed here. And that is because now I would like to basically trim it at the intersection with the pavement line. So now I will just trim it out here by holding Control. And now I have my line cut at that level. And I can do the same on the other side. I just want to make sure I have the right line selected. And I can trim it here. Now, this is the line we don't need, so I can delete it. And I can do the same for the line representing the cut. I can see that in the layer control, and before I have placed this in the Land4 New, so now I know this is the ridge slope I'm deleting. Now it disappeared in the 3D. So now I'm sure I'm working with a polyline I placed here. Now I can do the same, select both, and I just need to trim it out from here. And we can see now all this line, it basically is within the area, so I can delete it. Now I have it also on the other side. So I can delete this one too. And now I have my lines showing the fill as independent lines, and my last line showing the cut. So now what I need to do is basically simply create these lines as ridge lines using the spot levels we have interpolated along. So I can start with a line showing the cut. I want to make sure it's over the spot level at the intersection in both ends. And now I can select it and use the create ridgeline function. So now I just need to attach the spot levels placed before using the gravity tool. As you can see, the values of the spot levels are red in the box and simply attached to the line. Now I'm done, so I can press the green mark, and my line is now a ridge line. Now I just need to continue and do the same for the rest. Now I have all my lines as ridge lines. So I can use these lines to construct the new terrain. So what I basically did is using the ridge slopes to create the ridge lines so I can use them further in creating the new terrain. And having these lines, I'm now ready to go in the next part of the project. And that is basically I want to use all the features of the existing terrain. I want to copy them all into the new terrain. So I will, again, with the selection palette, we can see all Land4 existing elements. And we can see we have, again, the road and all the spot levels, except the spot levels and ridge lines of the new terrain or are the construction site. And in the new terrain, we have no objects yet except the spot levels and the ridge lines we have created. Therefore, I will now close the palette, and I actually need a selection of the objects in existing and close the palette. And now I can copy them to Land4 New. So now basically I have all the objects from the existing copied into the new. So I have them in both categories. And we can also see that on the spot levels. And for instance, if I hide the existing, they were now basically all copied into the new terrain. So basically what I want to do is, if I also hide the constructed categories. What I want to do is basically delete all the new spot levels in between or within the area I defined by projecting the ridge slopes. And that is because this is my new terrain, and that's where I want to bring edits to the terrain. So I make sure I delete all the spot levels here. Now I can delete them. And it would be very easy to point out the difference between the new terrain and the old terrain. I'll just create maybe a polygon, which I will use to work with the volumetrics just for the constructed area. And that is because basically the rest of the terrain is the same. I haven't done any other edits here. So I'll follow always this predefined geometry. And I can now show again the existing terrain. I can delete the surface and recreate one. So I'll use new. So now if I go and follow this, I need to use the manual. So I have to define this area manually. That is because I have a closed polygon in between. So the magic wand won't help me this time. So this is my new terrain. And then if I go to the existing terrain, I can show you what's the problem with using the magic wand. So the new terrain will be created just outside of the border with the magic wand. So I have to do it manually in situations like this. Otherwise, using the magic wand, it's very fast and saves you a lot of time. But this is a special situation here. So I can select and press tab and switch in between the categories. So maybe for the new, I will place a different color for the surface material, and I don't want the level lines in 2D. And for the existing, I can also take the level lines here. So if we go into 3D now, we can see the existing terrain, and that's the one we've been working on. And now I can maybe hide the existing and show the new terrain. And here we can see a little bit of a difference already, because we have no spot levels in between. But back to 2D, I can hide here the existing terrain, and I can now show the rest of the constructed side. And that is because I want to include a few objects from here in the new terrain. And that is because I have built the constructed side. So a few features I want to use is the pavement. So I want the ridge line from the pavement. I want to copy it into land for new. And I also want the ridge line from the parking surface. And that is because these new features will be part of my new terrain, basically. So existing, I'm going to show it again. So now I have a couple of new features. I can use again the selection palette to show my objects in new. And now we can see before we had nothing within the area. Now we also have the ridgeline of the surface and of the pavement. So we will use that when constructing the terrain, the new terrain. So I will now do that. And we can already see a difference here in the 3D. We can now see the final terrain. So now the new terrain is following the pavement and also the parking surface. So as you can see now, it meets the pavement while the existing terrain, it goes underneath. So in this way, we have already constructed the new terrain in a way that it meets our constructed site. Now we are able to already do the volumetrics. Before that, maybe I'll hide the level lines in the 2D. And because I will work with these surfaces from now on, I will go into the default settings and take out the level lines in the 2D from the surface I'm building from now on. So I have both surfaces now, existing and new. What I want to do is create a little bit of a space in the fill. I'll do it for the new fill, and I'll just leave a small triangle here, so I'm able to do the selection, the manual selection, using the volumetrics tool. So I'm now able to create the volumetric surface. I have the existing first there, and now the new. And in the last part, I need to simply establish the parameter I want to involve in the volumetrics. And now I can place the stamp. We now have the stamp here. And as we can see, we need to add to the side 44 cubic meters. So we can see it's involved between the land for existing and new. And based on the volumes for the fill and the cut, it's quite well balanced. But because we have did the math and we need to add to the side through building materials roughly 300 cubic meters, we did manage to balance it out quite nice. But compared to the amount we need to still add to the side, this project could be a little bit improved. That means if we increase the fill volume more, then we will be actually improving the balance. But then, of course, that depends a lot on the project and the purpose of the project. So now I can start by deleting the surfaces. And because I would like to fulfill better the balance in between the surfaces, and also I'm not limited by anything else in this project except the existing road here, then I kind of have the freedom to adjust the constructed side in another position. Therefore, I can still adjust this volumes better. So I will start by selecting the land for new objects, and I will delete them. And that is because I want to construct a new terrain from scratch. So in the 3D, if I actually construct the existing terrain again, We can now see on the existing terrain that basically if we move the whole constructed area more to the left, then we would basically need more fill, because we can see on the level lines also that the terrain, it's the level of the terrain, it's going down here, and we would need less cut, obviously. Therefore, if I try to move the whole structure more to the left and then try out again, I would basically balance out the volumes better. So I will start by deleting the constructed surfaces. So the parking surface and the pavement, and also the parking edge. Um, and now I will have the ridge lines and the spot levels left. And once I'm happy with their position, I can basically reconstruct the surfaces, which is a fast process, and then do again the new terrain. So I can use again the selection palette to select all categories involving the constructed area for the ridge lines and the spot levels. And once I've done that, I can now basically drag the whole site to maybe 5 meters more to the left. What I see here, it's basically the polygons I use to create the ridge lines for the parking edge and the parking surface. So I'll place them outside there. And now I have my ridge lines. As you can see, of course, now it's not connected to the road. So I can simply just drag these spot levels together with the ridge lines and meet the road. So once I'm done adjusting the geometries for the ridge lines where they meet the road and the spot levels, what I now need to do is make sure the height of the spot level at the junction with the road is the same, because we have basically moved it 5 meters along the road. So now I can basically select the spot levels at the road and I can just delete them. And now I make sure I'm in the right category, and now I can place new spot levels, which I am basically reading from the surface of the existing terrain. And I can place new ones. We can see it's 1 centimeter lower here. And once I have the spot level, the new spot level, I simply select again the ridge line and add the spot level to the ridge line. And I can do the same for all these spot levels here, which are at the junction with the road. Here I can see in the category box that both my objects, the ridge line and the spot level, are in the same category. So in this way, I can make sure I'm connecting spot levels with ridge lines from the same category, where we have them underlying on top of each other. And you can just do this with a tab function by holding Shift. So in the 3D view, we can check the results. So we have edited these spot levels using the ground floor view, and they look fine. Same with this one here. While these two here at the representing the parking edge, I haven't yet, and that is because we can do this edit also in the 3D view. So I simply need to select the spot level here, and then I can basically drag it down on the Z value so it meets the terrain. And then I can also rotate the model and adjust again the spot levels on this axis here. So it's on the ridge line. Every time I do this edits and working with the spot levels in the 3D, they will also update in the 2D on all axes. Now that I'm done adjusting the spot levels at the intersection with the road, I am ready to continue the work. So back to 2D. So I can continue the work and project the ridge slope for the cut part here on the right side. And for example, I can also draw it myself. Instead of using the ridge slope where I can project to a certain fall percentage, I can just simply draw a polyline where I would like to have my new terrain projected. So maybe I want to follow this, or I want to follow the pavement. And of course, I need to make sure I'm closing the line at the junction. And now having these lines, I can start interpolating spot levels in the new category. So again, I'm using the gravity tool and I'm start placing spot levels. Having now the line I have just drawn here, I can still project the ridge slope at 20%. And I can see that because I need more fill anyway on this area, and based on the existing terrain, which is lower on this side, I can already see that I will have basically more fill, which is going to help with my balance. Therefore, I will continue and use the line I draw myself. And it's also just an example to show you that you can use both methods. I'm now done creating the ridge slopes, and we can see them already in the 3D view. And now I can continue and copy again all the objects from the existing category into the new category. So once I'm done constructing the new terrain with the new ridge lines I have created, I can take a look in the 3D. Here we can see how the new terrain is meeting the constructed surfaces. And I still have the ridge lines here. I haven't constructed the parking surface yet and the pavement, but I will do after I'm done with volumetrics. So we can do now the final volumes. Once we have our stamp, we can now see we need to add to the site 302 cubic meters, and that is very close to our initial calculation of the building materials. So if I subtract the amount we need to add to the site, we can see we have roughly 9 cubic meters of soil we need to remove from the site. So as you can see, we have managed to balance out the volumes quite well between the fill and the cut, and also to move entire structures based on the ridge lines and the spot levels, and adapt the new construction site to the existing terrain, or the other way around, where you want to adapt your terrain based on your construction site. So this was the final video on how to construct the site in relation with the existing terrain. In this third video, we have created the new terrain based on the parking lot and made the final volume calculations. Thank you for watching, and for more videos, visit our YouTube channel or landforcad.com.